Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rob Trent. I'm CEO for Builders Capital, and today I'm going to be talking to you as a home builder. To give you some context, I've built and delivered over 2,000 homes in my career, developed well over 1,000 lots, sold my home building company to a public home builder in 2011, worked for them as division president for close to 3 years. So, somewhat well-rounded depth of knowledge around home building. And today I want to talk to you again from a home builder's perspective on how to get through this coronavirus and maybe change the things you're doing, or at least think about some things differently. So some things that I'd recommend for you to look at and start thinking about while we're building into a recession. I guess first and foremost is, are your current specs in the house that you're building, are they the right specs for a recession? When the economy is good and people are making money, options and upgrades that they're willing to pay for are much different than when they're frugal and in desperate times. And when unemployment's at the level it is, you're likely going to see some frugal buyers that don't care so much about, maybe it's the Doug fir lumber, or it's the spray and foam insulation, or dovetailed drawers. So part of the conversation today is going to be about putting the money where you get the most bang for your buck, and these are visual things where you can, see that it's the curb appeal, it's the master bath, or it's the kitchen when people walk in. The stuff behind the walls becomes less important. And generally speaking, add money where you can see it. Try to price your home 5 to 10% under where you thought you would sell it, and then maybe 90 days or 180 days ago when you started this project. And there's going to be some potential future pricing pressure that we're going to discuss also. So builder creep is something that's been going on for years. This has been a great economy since I think it started rebounding officially in 2012. So you've got an economy now that's 8 or 9 years into the running. And if you don't, those of you that don't know what builder creep is, it's when your competitor down the road is maybe upgrading their spec package. They're going from, who knows, it's tile countertops to granite countertops. And now for you to feel like you have to compete and get people to look at your homes the same way they might see the competitors down the road, you add granite countertops as well, and maybe you go one step above it and you add crown molding. So eventually, over the last decade roughly, people have gone from a pretty basic home, and once that reset has happened in the 2008 recession, and now those spec levels have creeped up to where those homes are more expensive. And in a recession in economic times like that we have right now, we want to try to get those home costs down. So some of those features that you're currently putting in maybe aren't as important. We want to attract new buyers with competitive pricing, not necessarily more options. So how do you do this? I would recommend you go out to all your trades right now and reprice your trades immediately. And this is market to market. Some markets aren't seeing this yet. You probably will, but there's a lot of relief in the vendors and the trades. And it should be easier to get vendors out to your site right now. There's not as much going on. There's construction being halted in several areas. So you should be able to go out and get fairly steep discounts from your trades. You want to go out and you want to reprice your material vendors and competitively bid them. So if you've had the same lumber company you've used on the last 10 or 20 houses, it's probably time you go out and you price check them. The lumber companies are probably hungry, and you go out to a lumber company you haven't used for 3, 4, 5 years, or maybe never. Get a competitive bid, let them win your business. Again, start driving that cost down. So overall, you want to try to build a more efficient house as well. If you can do efficient processes in your engineering to drive down hardware and straps, less lumber in your house, pre-cut lumber packages, that's an option if you haven't gone too far. Some of the things you want to start thinking about, again, get that cost of the house down, competitively bid and price your trades, your vendors, and your materials, and let's try to offer a less expensive house. One other thing that I want to mention is don't chase the market. So if we are in a declining market, which I think you all agree, unemployment's at, I don't know what it was, 21 million the other day, which is close to or below the 2008 levels. We don't want to chase the market. So if the market's going down, I'm going to give you a quick graph here to kind of help illustrate my thinking here. So a market doesn't just fall off a cliff. The market tends to gradually decline, and when it declines, you've got a lot of builders, and I've been guilty about this too, but you will step your pricing to try to stay with it and capture as much as you can. So if you look at this graph, this is showing where the market's declining, and as the market declines, You might drop your price real quick to try to get at market again, and the market declines further, and you're all of a sudden instantly behind the pricing curve again. So you let it go out a little bit, you drop it again. Well, you're never getting ahead of that pricing curve. That's what I call chasing the market. Instead, if you're thinking the market's going to decline and you're in agreement with us, and by the way, our economists are predicting the next 6 to 12 months there's going to be pricing pressure, and they're thinking, market specific is different, but overall, generally speaking, a 5 to 10% reduction in pricing. You want to get ahead of that curve. So to get ahead of that curve, you might want to think about being in the green zone. So the green zone is you're going to get ahead of that price. And if it's declining, and maybe these are 30-day increments, if the market's here today, drop your pricing and be 1 or 2% below the market. Hopefully you're going to pick that sale up there. And if you're not priced right, the market's going to come back and meet you again. When it meets you, drop your price again. And this isn't necessarily to, just say we want you guys to blow your product out and get rid of it. But you definitely don't want to be chasing that market down. If you're chasing that market down, it's going to be a long ride, and you may potentially have a very hard time getting rid of your house in an economic recession. So think about that. Start thinking like a home buyer post COVID-19. So imagine everybody's coming out of their houses. We've all been cooped up for, who knows, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, however long this is going to go. So what's this mean? When selling your houses, encourage good hygiene for people that want to walk through the houses. You got to remember these people are going to be social distancing still. They're afraid to touch things maybe. They're afraid to go through your house because somebody else may have been through there recently. So some of the things you may want to be thinking about is, keep a chart of when your house was last sanitized. If you have cleaners that go through once a week, keep a chart of that, have them wipe down the counters, the railings. People aren't going to want to take the chances of getting sick. So think about that when you're selling houses. This also likely means no open houses for a while. So in the real estate world, you'd have a broker's open, multiple people coming through your house. I can't imagine that's probably going to continue in the near term anyway. So this means get creative with 3D and virtual tours. You're likely going to be selling your homes virtual for a while. Some of you are already doing this. I think that's great. But think about the best selling features of your home and make sure you're marketing those. You're probably going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 5 minutes to capture and sell your audience. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. And do as good as you can to sell the features and the options that you think that house shows the best. Also, think about people's buying mentality. It's going to be much different coming out of this. So if the economy and unemployment are going to be challenging, what's important for a home buyer during times of job uncertainty? And it's going to be much different. Again, most people want to hang on to their cash. Liquidity is important. Find a preferred lender if you don't have one. Come up with options to limit the loan amount or the down payment. And maybe fund some interest-only loans or loans with payment options. Get creative. Again, people want to hang on to their money. If you can come up with programs to allow them to hang on to more of that money and still get into a house, I think that's going to be enticing for a lot of people. Maybe that's rolling closing costs or options into your sales price. But be careful with that because you want to attract people with price today. And that might just be a negotiating feature for you. In general, people aren't going to want to spend money if it's unnecessary. I think you might want to think about not including certain finish options. Maybe they're washer and dryers or fridge utility packages, irrigation, rear yard landscaping, built-in vacuum systems, or things that people can do later after they get into the house, but they can get into the house spending less money today. So think about those. In general, the punchline, and I won't go on for too long with this, but to sum this up, the world's changed quite a bit. And we need to be thinking about the future going forward, not how it was in the past. It's going to be much different. The landscape's going to be much different. And I think you need to think about, again, spec level, finish features, the sales process, and bringing that price down to be more attractive in a declining market. In good times, people are going to spend money on things they want. In tough times, that becomes less of a priority, and the needs become more important to them. So keep that in mind. We want you all to be successful. We want you to build and sell your houses. We want everybody to come out on the other end of this. There's going to be a lot of opportunity when things start to improve again. But if any of these tools and tips can be helpful for you, then I'm glad we mentioned them. And you guys stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.